All right, so welcome everyone. Thank you to those who have participated in our first poll. This is one of our internal evaluations. So if you're just joining, please take a second to complete that. All right. So welcome everyone. Want to make sure everyone can see that we are in e-commerce for the small farm. So in case you are in the wrong session, just note that we got some links on our website to help direct you to the right session. And also welcome everyone to day one of our 33rd annual California Small Farm Conference. We are thrilled to have you guys on, and thank you again for those that participated in the poll. All right, I could do my advanced slide here. All right, so for those of you who are just joining, maybe didn't see the chat yet, we'd like to thank everyone for attending, especially our panelists who are going to be joining us later in today's session to talk about their experiences with e-commerce, all the sponsors who made this event possible. And we'd like to encourage you all to visit the expo hall, which is linked in the chat, so you can learn more about our sponsors and our close partners for this event. This year's conference was also made free to everyone. So in order to sustain this conference moving forward, we just like to encourage you all to consider making a donation, and that is linked in the chat box as well. I note that this workshop is also being recorded and it will be sent as a follow-up resource. So if you'd like to share this webinar with anyone else, please do that. And want to especially thank all the farmers who are on today's session. You farmers are building our soils, protecting our natural resources, and feeding our communities during these very challenging times. Thank you for all that you do, and thank you for giving yourself this time today to learn these new skills and build these new relationships. A brief overview of our learning objectives for today's webinar, so you get a sense of what we're going to be covering today. We are going to have time for Q&A at the end of the webinar, but we'd like to ask you all to please submit any questions, any thoughts, any just random inquiries you may have on e-commerce into the chat as we go along. We're going to be collecting those and then consolidating them for that Q&A section. So please share any thoughts, and we will all be muted, so that is your way of participating in the Q&A, just to note that. So first, a little bit about CAFF and our mission, in case those of you who are maybe attending your first conference. We are the Community Alliance of Family Farmers, and our mission is to build sustainable food and farming systems through policy advocacy, on-the-ground programs that create more resilient family farms, communities, and ecosystems. We have multiple programs and pathways for supporting family farmers, such as yourself. So please always feel free to reach out to us for support in any of these areas that you see here on the screen. This particular session is being brought to you by our Farmer Services Program, which you see that little organizational chart here and how that's set up. So we provide support on food safety, farm technology, and fire resilience. And that's a photo of me. I'm Elizabeth Vaughan. I'm your Tech Hub specialist, and I'm also your MC for today's webinar. And I was just hired at CAFF. So please feel free to put any questions, future topics you'd love to learn more about in the chat box as well, and we'll make sure to take those into account for our future webinars. But my position is to identify web-based solutions that will make purchasing local food more convenient, accessible, and competitive. So I'm looking forward to being as much service to you as I can. You'll see some questions in the chat as we go along. So this first question is, what farm technology topics would you like to see covered in future webinars? So it's going to be very interactive. For those of you who are on the computer, please participate. Please add your thoughts, questions as they come up. So we know as a small farm operation, you're wearing multiple hats, managing tight budgets, and you also have to keep your customers happy and engaged while you do all that. And we know farm to market technology is a big need. So this year, a Community Alliance with Family Farmers is launching our very own Small Farm Tech Hub. And this Tech Hub will be providing you free resources, templates, and also consulting for family farms in California and other related food businesses such as food hubs. And these services are being provided to those who are interested in pivoting your sales models that are going to be better suited for our current environment and longer term purchasing trends, especially with everything that's been going on with COVID. So you as a farmer and a business are going to be able to arrange for direct one-on-one consulting appointments with our Tech Hub team. And you'll see a poll question get launched here on if you're interested in receiving further support. And I encourage you to click yes if you're interested at all. This is a free opportunity for you to have your own business advisor or technical consultant supporting you. At CAFF, we want to ensure the success of small land-based entrepreneurs. And through these direct support opportunities, we seek to invest in education, technology, and collaboration to help our local food system survive the current crisis and thrive well into the future as well. So please complete that poll if you're at all interested. We'll be following up with folks this spring. So first, a bit about technology and how it supports you as a farmer and as a business owner. So technology is tied into all of the pieces of your business. It offers tools to allow you to better reach your customer, manage your business, whether that's keeping your books, projecting future sales and inventory. And there are a lot of strategies that you developed as a business owner, whether on paper or in your head. You all have determined what you would sell. You asked what products and market channels best fit your skills and business goals. And technology offers us tools and tactics to help with those strategies and make us more efficient. We know you run a tight ship with low profit margins, but you can't sell your product unless people know about it and can easily buy it when they want to buy it. So during this webinar, I'll be assuming most of you are direct marketers, or at least looking to shift your sales towards more direct markets and looking to build platforms with your customers in mind. So we'll be putting our focus onto e-commerce today, but there's way more where this came from because e-commerce is just one part of your marketing strategy. And a reminder that our Tech Hub is here to support you with your business needs and to help identify the proper tools and tactics that will best fit your operation. So now let's take a quick picture at what happened with COVID. We all, I think, can guess what this graph is. This is a summary of the volume of folks who are searching for CSA programs in California over the last 12 months. We know what that spike is for March and April. So if a lot of your sales are made online, you'll want to designate a certain percentage of your expenses towards maintaining that platform and improving upon it. But we also need to do our market research and think of long-term goals for your business and how current trends may impact those goals. We just don't always want to be reactive. We want to also be able to plan. So to look at this next chart and to help ground us in market trends, here's a snapshot of that same search, but over the last 17 years. And technology is a tool to be used, not only for e-commerce, but also for consumer trends and to help you as a business planner. There wasn't a pandemic in 2004, but that high spike you see on the far left is a higher spike than even this last spring that we saw. So the future is uncertain, but we can always make swags, which is a fun term coined by a former Disney executive, Nick Cote, and it stands for scientific wild ass guesses. So as farmers, we're going to try to do that as much as we can. But as a farmer, how can we respond to these trends? We adapt. We do our best to make those swags. Another quote from Charles Darwin to get more at this. You farmers have responded and adapted to the surge we've seen across the country. We've seen tremendous resilience and adaptability in our small family farmers, and COVID has spotlighted the power of the small farm. It spotlighted food security, public health safety, and labor concerns with consolidated ag corporations. And collectively, small farms are the most adaptable. So my position as our new Tech Hub is existing to help prepare you all even along further. So as a business selling direct, you take a customer-centric approach for your marketing strategy, which involves these 4 areas: how you reach your customer, how you engage them, how you convert them into a buying customer, and retain that customer going forward. Now, depending on how long you've been in business and how many loyal customers you have, your attention to the different levels of your marketing strategy may vary. And your e-commerce platform and tools can help support with all these 4 areas. So it's important to take a moment to think about these strategies, how e-commerce will support you in achieving your goals, and what budget is possible to make those goals happen. Monthly fees associated with your e-commerce site can add up quickly, but these fees may allow you to save valuable your time and maybe other labor hours in the long run. So one general benchmark to note in regards to budget by the SBA is that small businesses allocate around 7 to 8% of their gross revenue for marketing and advertising. But of course, these numbers can vary depending on your business, depending on how much cash you have available. But we just want to help provide some of this guidance to set the stage for success as you make these decisions. So for this webinar, we'll provide a bird's eye view of the e-business landscape. It can seem overwhelming, but matching up your marketing and tech strategy with your level of operation is where you want to focus your energy. Did your marketing channels and customers shift with COVID? Does your website reflect those changes? Are you now offering new products? Putting the effort into planning out your strategy and long-term goals will make e-commerce decision-making easier. So my goal for this introductory part of today's webinar isn't to go through all the dozens of software platforms, plugins, APIs, payment processors, because as a department, we'll be providing that free direct support to you all and providing more assistance in that area and giving additional direction. So for this webinar, we want to provide what resources are available and help provide some guidance on how you can evaluate all of the options and bring the one that best fits your business needs. And you're also going to hear from two real life examples in the field, two farms who went through this same process and came to a decision. So by this point, you may be feeling overwhelmed, but do not worry, you are not alone. We're here to help. No one was born knowing these things, so have no fear, ask lots of questions, and we're gonna get through this together. So you'll see another question in the chat. I encourage you all to answer it. What technological challenge is impacting your bottom line? We'd love to hear that directly from you. So we have lots of resources to share with you. I'm going to go over a few key ones, and then we're going to be following up with these as well as some additional links after the webinar. So this is one question: considerations for choosing an e-commerce platform for selling your farm products. So the resource has more details than the questions you see here. But one of the first questions, do you already have a website for your farm business? If you do, that's going to limit some of the e-commerce plugins that are available for you. That also integrates with all your other software systems that you're maybe already using, such as your point of sale system. If you already have that, if you're using Square or Spotify, for example, they already offer free stores as a part of your point of sale system. So there's more details on this resource that may be helpful for you depending on where you are in this journey. So I wanted to highlight this resource. And we're also posting these resources in the chat as we go along. This slide provides an overview of the different components of your e-commerce site. There's literally dozens of options. So I didn't put all the logos on here. I just wanted to give you an idea of the different services and how they overlap with the different areas of your e-commerce strategy. So services like Spotify and Squarespace offer bundled services. They give you a little bit of multiple things: shopping carts, merchant accounts, payment gateways. With no bundled services, you'll need shopping cart software like WooCommerce, and you'll need to have a website that supports WooCommerce. There's also open source versus proprietary web platforms. Template-driven do-it-yourself sites is growing rapidly. There's lots of options available there. Other questions to ask are around managing your content, or do you have to depend on a developer or on a third party to update your web content? So it's gonna, as you're going through this process, it's gonna be common to go back and forth and refine your architecture after you've already created content. And you'll hear more about that from our speakers later. But as long as it's not chronic and extensive, following a methodical process will improve your efficiency. And we're here to help you with that. So a disclosure also that CAFF is not endorsing any particular product or company. Our goal as a not-for-profit is to help small family farmers in California navigate the sea of options so that you can all maintain your diverse and viable farm enterprises. So think of us as your business consultants and advisors. We're here to help. And we're eager to help you identify solutions to your most pressing technological challenges. So please post those in the chat box, and this will give us a great start to this new small tech hub that we're building just for you. So another glimpse at some more resources available out there. This one was created by the National Young Farmers Coalition. Some of you maybe have already seen this. It came out last spring. But just want to make sure everyone on the webinar knows about it. It compares the 19 different softwares and their capabilities. So it looks at questions like, does Harvey integrate with QuickBooks? Does Local Orbit offer online payment options? This resource is also linked in the chat as well. This resource also looks at the fees that are being charged by each platform to give you an idea for your budget needs. Another resource by the CSA Innovation Network was built off of that previous resource from the National Young Farmers Coalition as a complementary guide. It actually highlights the top 9 platforms as ranked by farmers. And as you can see, Shopify received one of the highest ranks. And two of our speakers today just happened to be speaking on Shopify. So it wasn't that wasn't on purpose. It just happened to be it because I think it's such a popular platform with so many farmers these days. And this resource is also linked in the chat. And there's lots more resources out there. We're happy to connect you to any particular resource you'd like to know more about. So this slide just shows some of those resources that are being presented by our nonprofit partners. So some of these webinars look at different, they interview farms on their experiences with Square or Barn to Door or Harvey or the local food marketplace. So please let us know if there's any particular resource you'd like to know more about. We can also help highlight videos like this that actually dig a bit deeper to help give you more guidance. So now on to our presenters who have been navigating the e-commerce space for the last year. And I'd like to say that they've been doing it pretty well. And a reminder to please put questions into the chat box throughout their presentations, as we'll have some time for Q&A after both presenters have gone. So you're about to hear from Jennifer at Liberty Ducks, and then also Sean Kelley with the Ecology Cente, which is a nonprofit farm in Southern California. So please, as you hear them, as questions come up, just put them in the chat box and we'll be organizing those for after they're done speaking. So now I'm going to hand it over to Jennifer, and please take it away, and I can advance your slides for you. So just give me a nod or a verbal cue when you want to go forward.
Thanks. Can you hear me?
Yes.
All good. Great. I put on some canceling headphones because I'm currently in our office right now, so there's noise going on out there. I'm trying to focus in. But hi, everybody. It's so nice to be here. Thank you, CAFF, for inviting me. As I'm sure everybody listening in knows, this year has been nothing but challenging, but hopefully we can give you some good inspiration and techniques for navigating. I'm by no means an expert at any of this and still have pitfalls along the way, but navigating as best as we can. So quick update on what we do at Liberty Ducks. Elizabeth, you want to go to the next slide? The Liberty Ducks was founded in 1992 by my dad, Jim. He's a fourth generation duck farmer in California. I'm now generation number 5, but we started the company to reach the chef's demands of looking for a bigger, meatier bird. My family's ranch that still runs today, they focus on the birds heading into Chinatown, and during that time, there was a lot of chefs going over to Europe, bringing back a lot of the produce that they were getting, but kind of hadn't translated into protein. So we were excited to start that. The ducks are raised out in West Petaluma. Our office is here in Santa Rosa. So everything in Sonoma County. They're in open air barns, about 5 to 10 square feet per bird, raised 9 weeks rather than 6. So they're big and meaty. And we believe West Petaluma is the perfect place to raise ducks. The next slide. So pre-COVID versus post-COVID, this is a ton of information, but I just wanted to give a really good background of like where we were and then and where we are now. So we had set our entire business, 30 years worth of business, going direct to our wholesale partners. So that was restaurants and also retail outlets like Buy Right Market, Batted Calf, et cetera. We were delivering 3 times a week to the Bay Area, twice a week to Sonoma Napa, no online sales whatsoever. We have only just recently begun to integrate email ordering and text ordering, which was convenient for a lot of our chefs just to be able to pop off a text message to us. We had 250 customers processing twice a week. And then on March 15th, everything shut down last year. So we opted to continue raising all the birds that we had in production. So we were lucky here in Santa Rosa, we have a big freezer storage facility. And so we were freezing product the whole time. What that let us do was open up into this retail market. So instead of shipping as much fresh product to our retail customers, we're shipping frozen, which just helps a little bit with inventory. So originally, if you look at our DTC sales, it was only about 10% of last year. But if you look at like the COVID months, it was actually closer to 20%. So if that gives you any indication of like how much our sales really dropped after those first 2 months of the year. January, February, completely normal last year, and then it plummeted. We're still doing 3 times a week delivery, and now 2 of those days to the Bay Area involve home delivery. So we've kind of re-navigated how our delivery drivers drive onto their existing routes. We get emails. We get the wholesale orders on one email, the retail orders on a different email. We have 2 phones that are text capable. We have 3 phones that are voicemail capable. So we are accessible on multiple levels. It's a bit stressful sometimes, but we're making it work. Our wholesale list, as you can see, it dropped from about 250 to 125 a month. So we're still navigating restaurant closures or temporary closures as they hopefully will reopen soon. If you want to go to the next slide. So e-commerce, what we're all here for. Yes, DTC means to individuals. I saw that. That one's important. I'm also in the wine industry, so I say DTC because we have direct-to-consumer in wine, and I forget that that's a phrase used in wine more than in farms. So the Shopify is what we ended up establishing. It has been amazing to interact with our consumers one-on-one. So if you don't have anything set up, I do think it's really worth it. It is time consuming though. So I've now hired another person to help me with it, which is something that we never thought we would have to do. The chefs in restaurants and wholesale is a little bit easier to navigate, but when you have 200 people emailing you 200 different questions with retail, it turns into a whole nother ballgame. But for us, it's been really exciting to add new products that we would have never done before, like the sausages and smoked breast, and then also using social media as a marketing tool to create cooking videos and to create educational content so that people are now excited to cook duck at home has been really exciting. So next slide. We started with Square. We already had a Square processing system that we would just use to process the occasional credit card. Prior to the pandemic, we also were only checks. We're very old school in that way. The chefs and restaurants would write us a check. We'd bring it to our bank, deposit it. Everything was done by hand. So we had the Square account for the very few people that wanted to pay by credit card. I started it out of necessity, and then it's changed over time over the last 10 months. So the first problem with us is everything was by pound, and so we had to figure out a unit pricing so that we were still making the right amount of money. We've ultimately not added a ton of percentage for retail customers. They're almost getting charged the same as a wholesale price per pound, but we've added some just to accommodate the extra time that they take. The biggest problem that I had with Square was that it was really hard to figure out the pickup orders, delivery orders, shipping orders. It was really complicated and confusing. We changed to a new version in Square, but there was still some problems. So ultimately, last July, we switched to Shopify and have found it a lot more easy to navigate. And some of my slides later, I have some of the actual screens of what we see every day. But I'm happy to talk more directly with people if they have more specific questions about Shopify. And then we really needed that dedicated email account to handle the influx of messages coming in. Each order that comes in is one email, and then we have to respond back to those to schedule at certain times. So it turns into a lot of communication back and forth. Next slide. So, as I was saying, there's the Shopify homepage. It's super easy to navigate. You can see that left-hand side, all the menu options, orders, products, customers. There's tons of good reports in that analytics. You get to see a lot of the information coming in and out. And then for us, we ultimately moved our entire website to Shopify. So we don't have any sort of website hosting off of it, which I think really helps for me to keep it all in one place. So I'm not trying to fix things on 30 different screens and settings. So that's been really handy to have it all just easy to digest and navigate. So if you go to the next slide, it's our orders that come in. So you can see on the right-hand side, we have delivery method. We've opted to do all of our shipments overnight or next day air. If they're outside of California, we're shipping with UPS, but internal in California, Oregon, Washington, we're using GLS, which is a really, really great ground shipment West Coast option for people if you are in the West Coast. It's 1 day to anywhere in California for us, or 2 days to Oregon and Washington. And that is where I would say 80% of our orders are coming from. And so it's been really nice, especially during that increase in holiday packaging. They didn't see quite the delays that UPS or FedEx did. And for us, with a highly, highly perishable product, we have a very limited window. Using GLS was a game changer. But you can also see we have local delivery and local pickup. So we have 3 different options depending on where you are. In our checkout section, we've set all the different zip codes where we deliver. So if people have put their minimum, we require $100 for delivery, or else it just doesn't make sense for us. If they have over $100 in their cart, it will automatically open up the delivery option if their zip code is applicable. So that's been a really nice thing that Shopify has that I didn't think worked on other people's page. So if you go to the next slide, you can edit all your products. So this is actually, it's not shown quite like this, but for space sake, normally the different variants you see on the right would be underneath the product description, but it's just so easy to add, change, modify, edit the product if it's sold out. We have the hardest time with our fresh inventory because it's got to be, it's refreshed once a week. So this is, that quantity section is what I'm editing most often. For the frozen products, because we had a big, the whole year's worth, we were basically running into times at one point or another where we weren't selling out of things. We've got a good inventory of all of those. But again, going to Shopify, I think this is one of the reasons why it has such a high rating. Just having this all on one website and one screen is really handy. So the next slide just kind of shows what you see when you're trying to build the website. You can click into customize and get into various points of the actual thematic elements of the website. So you can make it look really clean and nice and pretty. And then over on the left side, you can see it says pages. And in there, we have all the recipe pages, all the restaurants that we sell to. Just trying to make it so that the retail consumers know exactly where they're going or what they're interested in. I see someone asked a real quick question, and this is important to everything that we did. The local deliveries, we do it ourselves. It is a bit limiting. We were lucky in the sense that we were already going to the Bay Area, to San Francisco, Oakland, Berkeley 3 times a week, and Sonoma, Napa twice a week. So we just built the retail aspect on top of that, but there's a limit to how many we can add each day. So it's nice that we have a couple delivery days per week, so that hopefully if you order any time of the week, you're still getting it by, our goal is to get it to you by that weekend, because we're assuming a lot of the consumers are going to make the stuff on the weekend. Though we're trying to convince people it can be a weeknight meal. So I think rules and boundaries for delivery routes is super important. You can spend your entire week delivering. So really being realistic about how far you're traveling, how many places you go in a day. We're lucky that our trucks went to those spots, but if I didn't have the truck going to SF and Oakland, I would probably focus, SF would be one day, Oakland would be another day, just so that you're not bouncing across bridges, especially on-ramps to bridges, as people go back to work. That's where it's their kryptonite, all those on-ramps. And that's where we lose tons of our hours drive, or like our employees' drive time is in traffic, which is also something to consider, is just how long those routes are going to take if you're paying someone else to do them. So I think that's pretty much my whole slideshow for now, and hopefully we'll leave lots of time for questions at the end.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jennifer. I'm sure there's lots more questions that the audience has. So thank you so much for going over all that. We're going to move right into our next speaker, because we want to have time for both speakers to take Q&A at the end. So that's the plan. So please keep filling welcome to put your questions in the chat box as they come up, and we'll look at those for the Q&A time. So now I'm going to, well, before we actually jump into Sean's oh wait, I'm sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. Sean, please take it away. That's all you.
Hey everyone, it's nice to meet you all through the computer. My name's Sean Kelley, and my title is Communications Manager at the Ecology Center, but I manage the website. I've been working with them to help build it, and then also help manage our CSA program, which is called FarmShare. Can you switch to the next slide, Elizabeth? To give you some background, I've been with the Ecology Center for 6 months now. Before that, I was working for a boutique digital agency where we handled everything from building websites to marketing plans to social media marketing, print materials, basically the full spectrum for a handful of small businesses. I was contacted by the Ecology Center to help them finish their website build as project manager. They brought me in July after having started the website rebuild in March to address some of the issues that we were facing due to COVID. To give you more of a background on the Ecology Center, we're a 28-acre or certified organic farm. We were started in 2008 and have retained not-for-profit title since that period. We started with education, focusing on teaching people how to live more environmentally friendly. There's a farmhouse on the property, and that was our original starting place. We had 1 acre, and we used the farmhouse as a way to show people how they could set up functions around their own home to be more environmentally friendly. For instance, rain barrels, or holding workshops on raised planting beds, and a series of different educational offerings. A lot of it focused on children because they're the future, and we see the most impact in helping educate them. But we also have a ton of programs available for adults. What you see here in this photo shows our market garden, which is in the foreground, which is basically a kind of a testing field where we're showing what's possible to be grown in a small plot of land. Basically trying to set up a program that can be replicated across the country on small pieces of land, really showing what there was an older system of growing where you just grow specifically what was going to be sold in your store. And so we're looking to replicate that and teach others how to follow that program. Moving into operations here, we have 63 full-time employees. We have multiple programs running on the farm. We have the farm operations. We have a school for small children. It's right now it's in the beginning phases. We're working as an outlet for homeschool, with plans to hopefully turn that into a Montessori school in the future. We also have a farm stand on our premises and a CSA program. Our current goals for the farm stand this year are to do about 3 million in sales, and our CSA program, which is guided by our e-commerce experience, to do $1 million in sales this year. Pre-COVID, we had a CSA program running, but it was built on the premise of you pay for a season in advance. So you would pay for the spring season or the fall season. And we found that the expense upfront cost really turned off a lot of customers, as well as made marketing to them hard, because once they were signed up, we had them for a couple months, but then every time that season ended, we had to restart a brand new marketing cycle. It was very resource intensive, and possibly lost customers who wanted to remain, but just didn't follow through with the reordering process. So at the beginning of COVID, there was a massive influx of need in our community. We ended up serving about 800 families a week at that point, and there was a identification of a need for a new web platform. We were using Farm Ego at that point, but we decided to switch to Shopify in order for greater flexibility in everything we were doing. Can you switch to the next slide? So this is the start of the e-commerce journey. So unfortunately, because of the way COVID happened and the demand, there was not a great plan that was put into place. And this was probably the greatest downfall of this whole project. Is we were trying to build the plane in the air while people were joining to be customers. So when I came in July, you know, they had already been building the website for a handful of months, and not much progress had been made in a really beneficial way, because there was no real ground strategy. And so if there's anything that you all take away from this conversation is really, I can't stress how important planning is. Before you start doing anything, you really need to sit down with your team and identify what your goals are, what your needs are, how realistic those goals and needs are for your current capacity for this team. From the transition from Farmigo to Shopify, you know, we've probably spent close to $100,000 in development and design fees. And I strongly feel that if we had stepped into this with a strong plan, they could have saved probably $50,000. You know, it's a big expense once you start bringing in developers and designers. The entire experience we have on Shopify is completely customized. And that was the reason we switched to Shopify versus Farmigo or Barn to Door, these other platforms. We find that Farmigo and Barn to Door offer great back-end experiences for you, the farmer, but there's a lot of issues in terms of the front-end experience for the customers, and they offer very limited control over the design and of each individual product and how the flow from the product page to the cart page, which is very important for conversion and marketing needs. We run our whole program through Shopify, but it's paired with Recharge, which powers our whole subscription platform. Recharge is paired with Stripe as the processor and allows us to maintain open-ended relationships with our CSA program, where they only pay for each box, harvest box, at the day before they pick it up, so they can cancel at any time or change their subscription at any time or skip a pickup or you know, add another. Our whole CSA program right now is run through pickup. We don't offer any real delivery. We have a small delivery scope currently in San Juan Capistrano that's handled through DoorDash. They come to the farm and actually pick up the individual boxes, and we found that to be way more cost effective than buying a fleet and using that to deliver to our customers. With all of that said, you know, our current tech stack is pretty complicated and has required some pretty expensive customization. So before you decide that this is the perfect fit for you, you really need to look into what your needs are, and if you're going to be customizing the site to a level of experience that actually calls for this build. With Recharge, we had to build out a very customized reporting tool to maintain our pickups. And you know, that tool itself is necessary in order to enable us to deliver the right experience for each customer. And unfortunately, Shopify and Recharge, they're built for e-commerce businesses and not really farms. But hopefully in the next coming months, it looks like more and more developers are getting on the train here and are going to be offering better solutions for this thing. So that about covers it for our Shopify builds. I'm leaving it pretty open-ended and not getting too technical here. So if you guys have more specific questions, we can answer them during the Q&A. So looking forward here, we have about 700 current subscribers on our website. And we're averaging about $8,000 in add-on sales per week. The goal for 2021 is to double that number to 1,500 online subscribers, and also increase our average to about $8,000 a week in add-on purchases. We're hoping to achieve that through a better user experience. We're still actually actively building this website. The whole thought process behind the build is that we're creating a seamless experience between content and commerce. We actually use WordPress to manage all of our content because it provides a much cleaner and easier interface for management on the back end. And then all of our store functions are ran through Shopify. So if you actually visit our website, when you're viewing content, for instance, our journal or the programs page, that's all WordPress. But as soon as you click to the shop, the URL switches to farmshare.theecology.center.org, and that's our e-commerce experience. But the goal here is to make sure that it's a seamless experience and the user can go from reading about how to plant their own garden to purchasing fertilizer, then back to the store and maybe looking at some seed, and then back to the e-commerce experience, just back and forth without really any break in the way the content and information flows. So with all of that said, advice for people who are coming into e-commerce is, again, just really strong game plan, really think about what your needs are and what your budget is, and be very honest with that. And if you feel like this is over your head, I really, really highly suggest that you reach out to Elizabeth and her team or contact a consultant. What you pay in the upfront cost for planning, could be a couple $1,000s or free if you go with Elizabeth, but that could save you tens of thousands of dollars in the long run. So really, really focus on the planning and execution before you start your build is a huge takeaway. Thank you guys so much for listening to me, and I look forward to answering any of your questions.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Sean, for going all over that. And we actually have that poll question that we asked earlier. We're gonna put that back up for folks to click if you would like to be contacted by us for follow-up. I'm providing you more directed support. Again, this is a free opportunity. CAFF's building out this brand new small farm tech hub. So we want to support you. Sean, representing the nonprofit Ecology Center, they also really want to help small farms. So Sean, who said like, hey, if there's any technical questions, let me know. I want to be able to support these small farmers. So there's going to be lots of opportunities to get additional support in the future as we build out this program. So please participate in the poll if you would like to be followed up. So thanks again, Sean. Awesome work, and really exciting to see that Ecology Center has like a marketing guru to help them with this e-commerce journey. They're very fortunate. So yes, now we have a time for discussion. So I'm going to look to my colleagues, Evan, maybe Kelley, if there's any big questions that have come up. I saw some hands that were like eagerly being raised, but I'd love to ask for your guys' support to help pull up our first questions from the audience.
That's good. I'll note real quick. I've been answering some of the questions I've seen in the chat. So if you've asked one there, there's some information. But I know there's also the Q&A thing too. So there's lots of questions coming in from all over the place.
Yeah, great. Thank you, Jennifer. Any particular that are popping up for you? I see one that's asking about barn to door versus Shopify.
I never researched barn to door really extensively. I looked at it for 5 minutes and went, this looks complicated for me. I was trying to simplify my life as much as possible, which is why Shopify works the best for us ultimately. Just having it integrated. A few people were asking about setting it up, and I am not a web developer by any stretch of the imagination. And I felt that with our existing website content from our old website, it was really easy to copy and paste into their plugins, and I had no problems doing it. The nice thing is you can transfer all the information before you actually make it live, so you can still have your existing website up and running before you fully launch on Shopify. But I thought that was really user-friendly to make the whole website work for you. And there's really good help sections for things that you might not be able to figure out. There's like huge forums about different quirks, and that's been really helpful.
Cool.
Yeah.
Sean, did you want to add to that? I know you looked into it a bit.
Yeah,
right?
so I spoke with the barn to door representatives and did a demo with them when we were, we experienced huge growing pains with these reporting tools. That's probably the biggest problem with Shopify is the customized reporting that you'll need for your organization. They offer very simple reporting, but if you need anything specialized, it gets complicated quick. What barn to door offers is, again, they have a nice back end experience for you, the farmer, in terms of delivering reports, but the front end experience is completely, you have very, very little control. You have to go through barn to doors branded interface, and you have to go through, it's their own URL. So as some people have mentioned in the chat, you can't have it integrated with your own site in a really seamless way. It's definitely a hard break from your content to the barn to door content, which was not what we were looking for in our final decision. And then also having limited control means, that you can't really dial in conversions the way that you would want. But if you're a small business and you don't have a dedicated person to manage the program, I thought barn to doors interface was one of the better pre-made interfaces out there.
Yeah, that's great. And so I guess related to the Shopify comparison, there is another question for both of you. What does Shopify lack, or what would you change about it for your particular businesses? Any major deficiencies?
For us with deliveries, it's been really hard because they are so specific. It would be really nice if I could set San Francisco, we can add 5 on Monday and 5 on Friday, and it would just auto schedule people. And so far I haven't been able to do that. So that's one of the things one of the reasons why we hired someone to help us. And someone asked, they can't afford that. And we did that. It was coming into Thanksgiving, and I was like, there's no way that I can handle all these extra consumer orders on top of our restaurant orders for a very busy poultry holiday. So we added her on in Thanksgiving, and for Thanksgiving, kept her on through December. Christmas was crazy. I think 2 days before Christmas, we had 60 pickups on top of everything else. So all of that, it would have been really nice if Shopify had a pre-scheduler, but so far we have to do that all manually, which is where the time takes.
Yeah, in my opinion, Shopify, it's a very expensive service. Every additional thing you do on top of the standard Shopify usually requires an app or a plugin, which are monthly fees rather than one-time fees. And so if you don't have, a background in development or someone that you can hire to handle some of the customization, if you decide to customize your store, the fees can add up really quickly. Shopify you can buy a template, which will give you, minimal amounts of customization. And then they also have third-party tools that allow you to do customizing. But if you use one of those third-party tools, you end up paying a monthly fee. And those are just dollars out the door every time. So, I think this kind of leads into a conversation about the major differences between Shopify and WordPress when you're trying to compare Shopify versus WordPress WooCommerce stack. And the fact is that WordPress WooCommerce will be ultimately a cheaper solution in most cases. You'll have more customizable ability, but then the backend experience for you is not going to be as easy as it would be on Shopify. As Jennifer covered, the Shopify backend has really beautiful reporting functions that make seeing all of your data and information and understanding your business way easier. Those tools are available in WooCommerce, but they're just not as user-friendly and not as developed as the Shopify platform allows.
Thank you.
We just have the basic Shopify. We don't have any plugins to ours right now. So if people are interested, our website is libertyducks.com, and you can really see just how much you can do on your own without having, it does cost per month. I believe it's like $29 a month, and then there is a per transaction. So that is something to consider. But for us, that $30 a month was well worth the thing. As long we didn't need so much extra stuff. We don't have a CSA, so that definitely is something that I'm not educated in. And we've talked about adding some sort of subscription. A lot of people forget to order, or they're like, oh yeah, we forgot about you guys, and that would help sales for sure. So that's kind of phase 2.
Yeah, and then Sean, I know with all the plugins you guys have that can create, much higher monthly costs. Do you mind sharing what your monthly rate looks like compared to AWS?
It's constantly in flux right now. We're actually reevaluating our inventory tracking systems. I saw some questions in here about does it integrate with inventory? So we were using QuickBooks, but because we're farming and then transferring inventory from farm to a commerce setting, and there's all these different variables in terms of
oh, you just cut out a bit,
we're
Sean.
reevaluating which. Yeah, sure.
Sorry, you just cut out a bit, so I didn't hear what you said last.
I just got it. Your internet connection is unstable. That's great. It's in flux, but I would say we're probably about $1,000 a month in fees. Recharge itself is $300 a month plus a 1% transaction fee. But that's quintessential to running our subscription program. And then there was a question in here about bold commerce versus recharge, I saw. And again, that comes down to customization. Recharge offered us a much easier to customize experience. Bold commerce is great if you want to be building your CSA boxes product by product. So if you want to allow customers to choose corn and tomatoes and build their own CSA experience, then bold commerce will offer that for you. But in my research, we found that Recharge had more customization to the backend user experience, and that's what we're really, really focusing on with this build. Also, Recharge's trajectory is moving pretty fast. They're building currently a integrated checkout with Shopify. I saw someone ask a question about that in the questions as well. So that's going to be very, very exciting and simplify a lot of our needs.
That's awesome. And then there are some other questions around integration. So Calendly came up, as well as social media channels. So integration with that, but then the social media channels in particular was around how to work more effectively in driving sales. Can you guys speak to the Calendly thing as well too, and also social media?
I have not heard of Calendly, but I could see if that works. Everything that I found so far, I don't remember all the names of the plugins that I saw on Shopify, but none of them exactly met our needs, and they weren't particularly customizable. So paying for a plugin that didn't work, it was easier just for us to do it still by hand. And then as far as social media goes, that's been a huge benefit for us at Shopify. Is once you go through really quickly and click, say integrate into products into different social media, you can go into Facebook, Instagram, Google, and Pinterest pretty much with 4 clicks. And then when I go to tag on Instagram, you can tag people and up to 5 products per post. So if I'm posting a thing about duck legs, you click on the tag photo, goes to a product page on Instagram itself, and then it says view on website, and it goes directly to that product page on our website. So that's been really amazing. For us with our social media, we didn't have a Liberty Desk account until May of last year, essentially, and I don't create any new content for that at all. I just take what restaurants are posting, what people are posting, and I repost it with a little thanks for doing this, or look how good that looks. And so it takes me very little time, but when I'm reposting, that's really helped engaging consumers. People are like, oh, she posted that person, she could repost mine. And it kind of creates that dialogue back and forth. And it also gives other home consumers the confidence that they need to cook duck at home, which is definitely one of the biggest things that we struggle with, is that it's not an everyday consumable item. So that's been really helpful to have that direct engagement.
So I'm familiar with Calendly. We haven't looked into using it for the pickup application. That would be an interesting use case. I'm not sure if it's robust enough to handle hundreds of people at the same time, but it'd be interesting to look at. For social media, we do have a large social media presence on Instagram and Facebook, and we find that most of those users are really on the very beginning of the funnel, in terms of the sales funnel and getting them into being a supporter or customer of the Ecology Center. So, great advice that I can give to you all is really try and transition those people from social media to an email list. About 40% of our traffic right now on our website comes from email. So really try and leverage those social media platforms into a platform that you have more control over, because with the way Facebook and Instagram and all these social media platforms are constantly changing their algorithm, and may not be the most reliable way to consistently try and get sales. So definitely try and transition away from those platforms being your main source of advertising if possible.
100% agree. I hope you saw my extensive nodding to that whole thing. Instagram and Facebook are so variable, and for us capturing the emails from all the people ordering from the very beginning, and as well as having a very easy spot for them to enter future marketing campaigns, just subscribe here, is super, super helpful. That's where most of our sales come from. Shopify has, it shows you where your traffic's coming from. So that's a really easy report that you can look at. But yeah, Facebook and Instagram are only going to keep changing. And I totally agree, should never be, not be trusted as your primary sales source.
Yeah, and there's a lot of great other questions. I think, Sean, you're seeing some of these questions that are kind of digging a bit deeper in regards to, using Recharge and what email systems you guys are using, like how to capture emails. So if you could both maybe speak to that, taking it a step back.
I'd be happy to catch up some of the questions that have popped up here. Sorry, when I cut out, instead of QuickBooks, we're looking at a comprehensive cloud solution called NetSuite. It's incredibly expensive. I think we're looking at like $1,500 to $2,000 a month. But we also are operating a pretty large not-for-profit in addition to our farm operations, which can help justify why we would need such an extensive and expensive program. We haven't finalized a decision on that, but that's where we're looking to go, because QuickBooks just doesn't have the classes we need. For email system, we were using MailChimp initially, but because of the advanced functionality involved with Recharge and the way that we're passing information back and forth, we have a custom system built on our cart page that actually handles the data about location, time, and pickup for these CSA products, because there are no pre-built apps for Shopify. And Klaviyo allows us to transfer that information seamlessly from Shopify to our email platform, which allows us to segment a lot easier. MailChimp was great, but it doesn't have that ability to really sync with Recharge as well. There's a question here about, do you need Shopify and Recharge? So Recharge is a subscription platform. If you're planning on just selling normal products on your store on Shopify, you don't need Recharge. But if you plan on setting up a CSA program, the two heavy hitters in that realm are Bold Commerce and Recharge. They're both very expensive, so you need kind of a larger subscription base to support them. Sorry, Jennifer, I'm going on and on here.
You're good.
The best way to capture emails from social media followers, there's a ton of different strategies here. Jennifer, do you have any examples you want to share?
I think it's just driving people to your website is the most efficient way. There's not really any good avenue. Facebook has a you can sign up button, but I don't use that myself, so I'm not expecting my consumers to use it as well. You really want to convert your posts to clicks to your website and make that sign up pretty visible, so that the second people are clicking on your website, they're seeing that. I think you want to grab people within like 3 clicks, or they're going to lose attention and go somewhere else. So even if they're not purchasing at that moment, maybe for us, they're wanting to get duck for a special occasion in the future or a holiday meal. somehow we need to tell them what's going on in our world. So making that as easy as possible is super important.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I wish we just had a few more minutes there because we weren't able to get to all these questions and we're at time, but I want to make sure we have time to put up our last evaluation poll question for our attendees. If you guys could please take a second to fill that out. The questions that we weren't able to get to, since we are building out this small tech hub, I'm going to do my best to take all these questions and try to, come up with some answers for you and do some follow-up. I know there was a question on Wix. There was some other questions that we weren't able to get to. So thank you for adding those into the chat box. And thank you so much to Sean and Jennifer for your time today going over your amazing adventure with e-commerce and the journey that you've gone on. It's huge support to everyone on today's webinar. So just thank you so much. And you'll see here we have our mailing list that you can subscribe to at CAFF. There's lots more sessions at the conference that we hope you all get to enjoy. So just want to thank the panelists again and all of you who are attending and enjoy the conference. I'm going to be hanging out here for another minute, but this is the conclusion of today's webinar. So thank you, everyone.
Thanks. I got my email in there, so if anyone needs more questions, shoot me an email. I'm happy to answer.
Awesome.
Yeah, same goes for me. Elizabeth, you said you would help me kind of compile some of these questions.
Yes.
So where should they reach out to you? How should they contact you with those questions?
Yeah, I actually have my email. Thank you for noticing that at the bottom of this slide that's up on everyone's screen. So that's my email address if anyone wants to follow up directly. Thank you for flagging that, Sean. That's great marketing.
Yeah, no worries. I'm happy to help anyone who has any questions, especially if you want to get more technical. I'm happy to talk with you all and help and share the expensive learning lessons that we've had so you guys don't have to do it.
Yeah, there's no end of experiments going on. Right?
Absolutely. All right, you guys have a great rest of your day. Thank you for all your time.
Thank you, Sean.
Bye.
Take care.
Thanks.
Awesome.